Nepotism. Nepotism is a big discussion that's going on right now in Hollywood on multiple fronts. On one hand, we've got James Gunn being kind of thrown under the bus for nepotism because his beautiful wife, Jennifer Holland, is somehow magically still playing Amelia Harcourt
and his
in
brother.
the DCU. Yeah, and what's his brother's name?
Sean Gunn.
Sean Gunn. So that's on one discussion, but there's a lot of people discussing the concept of nepotism in Hollywood right now because, look, it's a fair thing to talk about. In an industry that's extremely ambiguous in how you hire, and there really isn't set standards. It's not like you have a licensing board, like you have to be licensed to do this type of role. You can make up any reason to hire someone for a role. You really can. So
even Miley Cyrus is kind of an example of nepotism in show business. We were recently talking about Zoe Kravitz, daughter of Lenny Kravitz,
and of Lisa Bonet.
Right. Yeah. And then we have other examples now.
Johnny Depp's daughter is acting now.
Lily Rose
Depp is acting now.
We talked about Lily Rose Depp because she was put on runways at the height of 5'3". Like
come on.
I'm sorry. You're not in the modeling business because you're good at modeling.
One of the Hadids is only like 5'9". Like is under 5'10". I think either Bella or Gigi is under 5'10". The other thing here is like, look, or the other one was John David Washington. He's one I actually feel bad for because I feel like he's actually proven himself to be like a capable actor. But your dad is Denzel. I feel bad for you that your dad is Denzel Washington and that you've chosen, you've taken a hard road. If your goal is not to make money, and that's the thing, a lot of these people, people are like, oh, look at it. They've got the fast track to money and fame. Sure. But if they've grown up with money, the likelihood is, let's be real, they're always going to have money, right? They're going to be fairly successful in whatever they do because they've got that financial backing and a good ground under their feet to build a career of whatever they choose. You're choosing to go into the same profession as somebody who's not just good, but legendary as that field. That's a tough road to go down.
Yeah.
For anyone.
But we're not denying that there are a lot of examples where recipients of nepotism not only live up to their parents' legacy, but also exceed it.
I'm kind of on the actors. I know I'm going to get crap for this, but I'm kind of on the actors' side in a lot of cases here. I am.
There are a few situations where I think that they really downplay the role of nepotism in their career. Lily Rose Depp is definitely one of them. And she, I hate... It's not nepotism that I hate. I think nepotism is actually a good thing because it shows that people are loyal to their family members, and that's a natural desire. Yeah. But to receive nepotism and certain privileges because of it and then deny that that's the reason you got to certain opportunities is obviously disingenuous and shows more insecurity on their part.
That's something we can talk about. So it's the idea here is look, if you hear it every day and you've chosen this profession that becomes your cross to bear, now you have to hear every day. I was just watching a documentary last night on oddly enough, the professional wrestler Triple H, who was a very gifted professional wrestler from the get-go, very talented, made it to the mid card and then to the main roster, and then became a top tier talent in the industry before he met and married Vince McMahon's daughter Stephanie. So when he married Stephanie McMahon, Vince said, look, first of all, he tried to discourage it because he didn't want his daughter dating a wrestler because it's a family business. He said, look, there's always going to be an asterisk next to your name. There's always going to be the question of whether you deserve to be here. Even though he'd already proven himself to a certain extent by that point, he had to decide, is my love for you enough to be able to put up with that type of claim? But he chose that. He chose that career and then to marry that person. That's a little bit different than somebody who is born into it and then chooses that career.
For context on why we're talking about this, New York Magazine put out this big expose basically constructing a family tree of every nepotism baby in Hollywood right now. Dude. So it's titled An All But Definitive Guide to the Hollywood Nepoverse, Actors, Singers, Directors Who Just Happen to Be the Children of Actors, Singers, Directors. Yeah. And it included examples like Maya Hawke, who is the daughter of Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke, and Phoebe Bridgers. And there are all these different degrees of extreme, like, like Phoebe Bridgers, for instance. People pointed out she is the daughter of a man who did construction on some Hollywood sets. People were like, okay, come on. How much could that have given her an advantage in the music industry? Like, very little. But it's not like, it doesn't bear mentioning, right?
Ooh, so in the chat, somebody says Chet Revolution. Chet's still acting.
See? Chet's another example. He's making his
own way.
He received nepotism. Now. He doesn't deny it. In fact, he's openly talked about it on his YouTube channel that he greatly struggled with the expectations.
Yeah, I forgot about
being
that.
Tom Hanks' son.
That was kind of why we got into the. He was so brutally, he was so honest in that video. But he is
obviously a very strong entrepreneurial spirit and a lot of drive. And it's cool to see someone who had advantages not just use those to their for their career, but also surpass them and do more than we ever could have expected. So I saw this one response from Lily Allen because of this conversation where she said people called her the chief Nepo baby defender because she said the Nepo babies y'all should be worrying about are the ones working for legal firms, banks, politics. And if we're talking about real world consequences and robbing people of opportunity, but that's none of my business. The thing is, it's important to acknowledge all of it, including show business, and to claim that show business doesn't have real world consequences is ignoring the fact that it's been hyper politicized. And an actress like Maya Hawke, who was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Stranger Things, hasn't been extremely vocal about abortion, especially because of the Roe v. Wade news that we dealt with earlier this year. This stuff is politically relevant, but shouldn't be. It is relevant to guiding the public consciousness and young people's opinions about things.
Well, we put too much stock in celebrities' words.
Yeah,
anyways.
People are given podiums and platforms and prestige that they didn't earn, and they're using it to influence people about real world issues. So the topic of nepotism in show business needs to be talked about. And by the way, Lily Allen is the recipient of nepotism. She herself acknowledged that. So this is consequential.
Keenan Smith says your channel is on suspended mode, restricted mode. I was in the library and couldn't watch. I can't tell if he's talking about us or somebody else. And Sketch Therapy mentions Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez's dad, Martin Sheen, who changed his name to Sheen because of at the time they thought Estevez. I always had a lot of respect for Emilio Estevez for just leaning into it and not changing his name at a time when he could have done that.
Charlie Sheen's kids all over again have repeated this cycle where they are saddled with having Charlie Sheen's last name. And then we've talked about also Charlie Sheen's daughter with Denise Richards being an OnlyFans model and using her last name to get a platform selling lewd pictures of herself. And it's nepotism is definitely used for evil in the world. We can talk about that. And we're allowed to talk about that.
And for me, maybe it's just because I'm the eternal optimist and I'm just kind of a sucker, but I love to see when somebody takes the opportunity and capitalizes. I root for that. I want them to succeed. The other thing is here, okay. For me, I'll tell my own story. So for me, growing up skating in Minnesota, one of the hardest things is there are a lot of very, very famous rollerbladers from Minnesota, Chris Farmer, Jeff Howard, people that I knew that I was friends with that were very, very big names in the industry, right? But here's the thing. When I got picked up by sponsors, I got picked up, I made a point of not accepting, I did not get names from friends and then have them reference to a company and say, look at this dude, he's pretty good. I got my sponsorships on my own. Companies came to me, not through my friends. And that was a big deal to me. It was important to me to make it on my own, to not need the leg up from my friends. I needed to set myself apart in my own way. And a big part of that is it doesn't matter because people still assume that somehow somebody else was involved. It's like I skated for a company called Razor Skates for a long time. And at that time, like by the time I left, Jeff was skating for them. He'd left one of his other sponsors for them. So they assumed that because Jeff was skating for them now, that I was skating for that I had gotten the sponsorship through him. But I'd actually skated for that company first. He was skating for a different company when I got picked up there. But that doesn't matter to people. Like they're not going to look at it that way because nobody wants to give anybody the benefit of the doubt in these types of situations. So it's like, I guess like just me, it's almost like a weird type of underdog story. Like when an actor can come up and make something of himself in the face of a family member that was more successful. Like I like that, but you're right. There's absolutely a political inclination to it when they use that platform for their own message.
Yeah. With all the talk about privilege in Hollywood, and certain people being shut out of the industry, it's all a fake conversation about fake attributes that like white privilege or male privilege and cis privilege and straight privilege and blah blah, all of these things that don't actually play a role, and we're ignoring the real things that actually have an impact, like who your parents are, who your friends are, and also how attractive you are. Those are the only action, or like how much money you have.
That was the thing.
Those things that I just listed. That is it. That is the extent of the list of things that unfairly or like undeservedly get you ahead in that business.
Yeah. And it does feel like a lot of the discussion about nepotism now.
Also who you sleep with.
Yes. A lot of the discussion about nepotism now is born out of that insidious discussion about privilege. Like it's that same kind of, people come from a place of envy and jealousy, and they want to diminish what somebody else accomplishes. I'm not saying there aren't perfectly good examples where they are right, and like that person very clearly got the job because their dad was in the movie or their mom was in the movie. But I'm just saying that I don't buy for a minute that all of those discussions are born out of an actual desire to see meritocracy return to Hollywood. It's envy. It's jealousy.
Yeah, it's like Nietzschean resentment.
Yeah, that's prevalent in our society right now.
The
class warfare.
Yeah, the writer for Vulture who did this piece, by the way, spoke to managers and casting directors who relayed that they do feel pressured to give more opportunities to the children of X and X famous name. One of them said, a lot of the children of famous people are not good. Someone once said to me, we should hire so-and-so because their parents will come to the opening night.
That's unfortunately something they have to consider. Like,
Yeah.
Look, you get hired based on what you can bring to the table. If Tom Cruise's name can bring something to the table,
Or The Rock.
or The Rock, their name can bring something to the table, then hiring somebody who has a famous parent, unfortunately, gives them an advantage over you. Tough life. Deal with it.
They continued, a big agency will write and say, this is so-and-so's kid, and you understand that to mean, so you have to see this kid. I have learned to simply say, not right for the role, but lovely. There are a number of veiled responses rather than saying, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it seems like a delicate situation to handle, but a very common one. All the names on this list, some of them surprised me. I didn't know about Dakota Johnson. She was named Miss Golden Globes in 2006, which I didn't even know this pageant existed, but it's the equivalent of a debutante society for the celebrity daughters. Like daughters of celebrities are able to compete and win for Miss Golden Globes. And I didn't even know that this thing existed, but
it's funny.
Apparently Dakota Johnson won it. It's news to me.
It's in professional wrestling. I mentioned the Triple H show earlier. It's actually looked upon favorably. Like, you're not thought of as like being a product of nepotism. The idea is they promote you as somebody like, oh, the talent is genetic. Like Randy Orton, and his dad was a famous wrestler, and his dad's dad was a famous wrestler. They can market that as a talent. They still have to be good, but there is a marketable character for you to play by being a third generation wrestler. I know The Rock's daughter just got hired, like just recently got a job as a professional wrestler. Like, it's a very big thing in that industry. So it's very funny to see how different industries handle that type of thing differently. The fact of the matter is, like, the way of the world. Like,
I just don't want celebrities, especially celebrities whose parents got them where they are, preaching to me about privilege and power.
Absolutely.
And the fact that, like, I'm privileged because I'm white, But you, who is like a multi-millionaire who is booked and busy because of your parents or whatever connections you have, you aren't unfairly privileged. Like, I'm sorry. Don't be a hypocrite at the very least.
Also, yes, the chat is right. Adam Baldwin, not related to Alec Baldwin. Thank goodness.
But you know who is related to Alec Baldwin that you didn't know, Brett? Haley Baldwin.
Yes, I did not know.
Justin Bieber's wife.
Justin Bieber is now weirdly related to...
So Justin Bieber is going to be, at the family reunion with Alec Baldwin.
I bet you he went to Alec Baldwin for advice on how to get with her, and he said, shoot your shot.
Oh, no. Terrible joke. Terrible
no?
joke.
No?
Yikes.
Oh.
I saw also on this family tree, they erased Chet Hanks when they named Tom Hanks. They only named Colin.
No, that's just wrong. Dude, Chet Hanks is still acting.
Colin Hanks' role in 2002's Orange County was a landmark in the history of Hollywood nepotism. Director Jake Kasdan and co-star Skylar? Is it Skylar Fisk? Also have famous parents. Decidedly, they did not name Chet Hanks, who has been acting as recently as last year.
Yes. No, it's this year. He had something in Atlanta this year, in 2022.
Well, there you go.
Like he's still being
what's that about?
A buff personal trainer guy.
He's still cooler than Colin.
So much cooler than
I don't understand the agenda here. This is Chet Hanks erasure.
Hollis Mallory says Kerry Von Erich was my favorite pro wrestler. They're making a Von Erich movie right now, I believe, starring who's the dude from 17? Zac Efron.
Oh yeah, that's
I believe
Zac Efron.
he's.
It's funny that it's 17 again is where you know Zac Efron from.
Oh, I mean I know him from Baywatch.
I know him from High School Musical.
I don't watch High School Musical.
Speaking of High School Musical, I also was just going back and watching Vanessa Hudgens' video that she made during lockdown about how being locked down until July, that's a bunch of bullshit. And, if this is a virus and everyone is going to get it, some people are going to die. And,
what the fuck?
That's terrible, but inevitable?
That's
and I was just preach, queen. Go off.
If a bunch of homeless people with compromised immune systems have to die, then so be it, she says.
I loved that. And then she also, had this weird interview with Kelly Clarkson where she talked about how she speaks to the dead. I was just like, what the hell?
I love it. And I just want to point out, look, James Gunn is going, this is why I told James Gunn to not direct anything, that he was going to get these nepotism claims against him.
Well, there's also the nepotism claim that just actors and actresses he's already worked with before for Suicide Squad are going to get brought back, but the ones that were in, the Snyder era will be axed.
If I was married to Jennifer Holland, I would put her in everything I made too. She's a beautiful woman.
I wonder how she got moved from a supporting role to a main role.
She's still kind of I guess she's not a supporting role in Peacemaker, but it's not like she's leading her own movie. But she's kind of that Margot Robbie classic type of Hollywood blonde beauty.
I wouldn't say she's on Margot Robbie's level,
no,
but she's definitely a very attractive lady.
She's in that realm, though. You can
we
tell.
We were just talking about Anya Taylor-Joy versus Margot Robbie. I would love the chat's input here. I think that they are equally beautiful.
Brett, however, is very, very pro Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I thought you said Anya Taylor-Joy is just as pretty, though.
No, I said.
Or do you disagree?
No, I don't. I said I couldn't pick her out of a lineup. I couldn't.
Well, that's weird because she's more unique looking than Margot Robbie, I would say. Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't really have Hollywood doppelgangers. But Margot Robbie has a ton of them.
Unique just tells me that you're going to throw my clothes out a window and
that's great.
And start my car on fire. That's what I think of when I think of Hollywood unique.
Anya Taylor-Joy is actually Carrie Underwood.
Basically. Hey, you leave Carrie Underwood alone.
I love Carrie Underwood.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.